I was I'm not an activist per se, but I was very huge in the community and helping people. So all the time this was happening, I was in the community still helping people. Even though I was struggling and suffering, it built up my track record in my community where my name is gold. There's no project, there's no dope spot, there's nobody that you can find that's gonna say anything negative because I was helping so many people. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I needed help.
The best way to support the Work and Play podcast is by subscribing to the YouTube channel and by going to your favorite podcast player to subscribe and rate the Work and Play podcast. That's all you have to do. So if you are liking the Work and Play podcast, the content, the stories that we're sharing, and you know that this will help someone, go ahead and share the content to someone who could actually use it and help them on their journey to transition from corporate into entrepreneurship. Now let's get back into the episode. Welcome to another episode of the Work and Play podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Young, and I have a really cool guest today. Now, we could get into education, we can get into entrepreneurship, but most importantly, I got to understand how you became a principal of an entrepreneurship school. So, but without further ado, we can make people, wait a little bit longer to wonder, who is this man in the room? But without further ado, please introduce yourself.
My name is Brother Henry. They call me CEO Brother Henry. I am the principal of Entrepreneur School. Yes, and I'm also the co-founder.
The principal and co-founder. Now, yes. What is the name of your
So the name of our school is Kikifer's. It's Kikifer's Entrepreneurial Academy, or Kikifer's Academy for Entrepreneurs grades K through 12.
Got it. And how did you come up with Kikifer's? I was always curious about that.
Long story short.
No, I like the long story.
Long story short. For a reason, right?
Okay.
So my wife's name is Kishonda.
Okay.
They called her Kiki growing up. We went to Vegas, and we was at Laugh Factory in Vegas, and one of the comedians, his thing was to go around and pick every person in the audience, and he roasted every person.
Yeah.
We were maybe towards the back, so we had time to plan how we could not get roasted as bad in real life. So we had to make up these stories. So when he called on us, he's like, "What's your name?" I was like, "My name is Jay Stone, and her name is Kikifer." And then he went clean in. But it was so funny that we brought it back from Vegas, and we named our first product line Kikifer's. We named our beauty supply store Kikifer's, and then we named our school Kikifer's.
Really?
Yes.
On such a moment of levity, you guys literally built your entire empire off of that name.
Absolutely.
Now, as you guys are sitting there figuring out how you're going to actually make this man not roast y'all so bad, where did Kikifer come from? You were like, okay, let's do this. Nah, Kikifer, that's it. And then he came to talk to you. What was going on through your mind?
It was just an accident. I was trying to think of a name, like what we're going to say. And the story was so wild. I told him I worked at Foot Locker full time at the mall, and she was a Sunday school teacher. So I was trying to think of a name of a Sunday school teacher, but it just didn't come to me because he was funny. We were laughing at everybody else's jokes. And then by the time he finally got to us, I just blurted it out. Like, Jay Stone and Kikifer's. And he was like, "What kind of ghetto name?" So I was like, he's like, "I know that name is black." And I was like, but from that, we realized that if we named our products that, people would have an idea who we were just from hearing the name. So Kikifer's.
That's dope.
It's not Swahili. It's no deeper meaning. People be thinking it's deep,
really, honestly and truly, I'm such a deep person, so I want to open all of the brand. But here's the thing, you still are building a brand off of it.
Absolutely.
So when you think about what Kikifer's represents now compared to where it came from, what does Kikifer's represent?
Well, now where we're moving now, it's showing growth and progress, and I wanted to show that no matter what your circumstance is, there's a way to elevate, right? So we want our name to be synonymous with elevation. Currently, it's synonymous with elevating young people, but we want to create a system that elevates young people and old people, especially in our communities where we don't have, we have resources, but maybe we don't access them, or we have major trauma, or we have these major situations. I want people to know and understand, if I can do it, trust and sure that if God will take me and use me, he could use anybody, all right? Because I was last on the list. I checked twice. I was looking at the list. God, my name not on here. You forgot somebody, and then, oh But my name just made it to the list, but I was last place. So if he could use me, he could use anybody. That's the point.
Well, and you got to start somewhere. So I love the fact that you're building your foundation on helping young people do it. I'm really big on creating a framework, proving your concept on one person or one type of like community, and then building out that same impact for other people. So I think what you're doing is amazing.
Absolutely.
And honestly and truly, we got to get into your story, because when you say I was not on the list and then I became last on the list, it's like, okay, what were you doing before you decided to open up a school?
Wow, that's so many stories in there, right?
Yeah.
And when I was writing my first book, I went back and looked over my life, and I was taking notes on things that happened, and I realized I had been fired from 25 jobs plus, right? I could not keep a job. Not because I'm not a good worker. I'm definitely a hard worker if you inspire me and you put me in position to be a hard worker. But I just kept getting jobs I didn't like. So I was working at Walmart, but Walmart wasn't invested in me, and I wasn't invested in Walmart. I did just enough to get a check, but not enough to get a promotion or not enough to move through the company. I had no desire to. And so in my story, that's a huge part of it, is like, get a job, lose a job, get a job, lose a job. The best job I ever got that I love, I was a police officer. And first of all, I didn't like the police. Oxymoron, right? Don't like the police, but became a police officer. And so when I became a police officer, there was this black police chief, and he just revolutionized policing. I never seen anything where people just loved the police. It was on NIU's campus. So I was like, what is this? That people are hugging the police and asking to hang out with the cops. Like, I've never seen. What's happening here?
What's NIU?
NIU is Northern Illinois University.
Got it.
Yep.
So you were a police officer on Northern Illinois University's
yes.
campus. Okay.
Yeah. So, and actually we were state police. My main jurisdiction is NIU, but we're state police at that point. But we worked NIU. So I got a job there. I loved it. But of course, all good things come to an end. The chief was huge on community service. It's very small on arrest. It was more like helping people versus hurting people. So, of course, he fired all these people. He fired like 90% of the department, hired all new people. There was women, there was blacks, there was Muslims, there was Buddhists, he really diversified the police department to look like the community that we serve. And so, in him doing that, some stuff happened where they ended up firing him. Well, not firing him. They put him on leave. They ended up trying to fire him. And then they went after all his supporters. And I was an avid supporter. And it really came down to, will you stand with him? Or will you stand with us? And I was like, well, this is a man that gave me an opportunity when nobody else gave me an opportunity. This is a man who believed in me when nobody else believed in me. This is a man who stood for me. So how could I not stand for him? So even if it cost me being fired, which it did, I'm going to do it. And then my wife also worked there. She was working undercover at the time, but because of how they treated me, she was like, I can't stay here. So she ended up leaving too. But that experience just went and showed me, like, you know what? If I owned the police department, this would never happen. Because you can't, when it comes to policing, a lot of times we don't understand as civilians that you can own your own police department. And we think, well, your taxes pay the policeman's check. No, we don't understand entrepreneurship. And there was nobody at that time in my life. And in this time period we're talking about, the buildup, there was a lot of struggle for me. Like, when I say struggle, my wife is a good woman. I'm talking about evictions, foreclosures, lights out, gas off, water off. Like, we were so poor at a certain point that we used to sneak to the YMCA at night to take showers right before they closed because we didn't have running water at home. This
got married.
This is after we got married. So the struggle was real. And the thing was, we went from 6 figures to nothing, 6 figures to food stamps. And
going from the police force. Both of you guys are in the police force. She's undercover. You're an avid supporter of the police chief. Both making 6 figures, or like 6 figures together? Combined,
we probably, I don't know. But yeah, definitely 6 figures combined. Right. Yeah.
And you both lose your homes. Not your home, your income. You said you lost your home? Yeah,
I ended up losing the home. My house ended up getting foreclosed on. So we ended up losing the home. We ended up losing the cars. We ended up losing pretty much everything. We had a home, but if the electricity's not on and the water's not on, you're just a fancy homeless person, right? Yeah. You're not homeless, but the things that make a home aren't present.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but the crazy thing is, while all this was happening, I'm not an activist per se, but I was very huge in the community and helping people. So all the time this was happening, I was in the community still helping people, even though I was struggling and suffering much. And it built up my track record in my community where my name is gold. There's no project, there's no dope spot, there's nobody that you can find that's gonna say anything negative, because I was helping so many people. But at the same time, I needed help.
Are you still trying to get a leg up on your entrepreneurial career? Now, I told you about the morning meetup, the community that was created for the betterment of entrepreneurship. And we are cooking up some really cool things. Now, here's the thing. If you join today, you can actually get in for 60% of the original price. So if you join today, all you have to do is download the app, and I provided the link below so that you can join us. We have community, we have a book club, and it's the largest group that meets every single day, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. to literally get a head start on entrepreneurship. So if you're still trying to grow, you don't know what your business is going to be, but you know you want to be an entrepreneur, this is the community for you. So check out the morning meetup, click the link below, download the app, and join us today. Yeah.
And in that struggle, what I realized later down the road, to answer your question, I say all that to say, is I realized there was nobody in my community teaching me entrepreneurship to give me a way out besides go to school. Because I tried school, I got straight A's, I didn't like it, so I dropped out. Right. So I didn't have any answers. I was completely out of answers. Like, what do I do in my life? I feel like a loser. There's nothing I could do to provide outside of like job after job or working factories. And factories, I'm way too much of a social butterfly and too creative to be in a factory. Like, I would be on the line like, are y'all cool with putting this screw in the box? Like, we just gonna do this?
Always. I'm the same way, where it's like you do the menial tasks, whatever the menial task, because it's not just the the conveyor belt type role, but it's just like when it's menial tasks, that's always the time in your life where you ask yourself like, yo, is this all we're gonna do? Is this all that we're cracked up to do? I'm curious about your journey though, because when you were in the police department, you were faced with the option, it sounds like, to support or not to support. And then your wife also was faced with the option of to support or not support. So you're facing losing your job, losing your 6-figure income, losing your stability. What is going on through your mind at the time when you're faced with, all of these things? Like, where were you guys thinking this is how we're going to make it out?
So I saw entrepreneurship as a way out. I just didn't understand entrepreneurship, right? So I took thousands of dollars. If anybody knows Chicago, I went and got, my friend had a store in Madison, so I went and bought, at that time it was like Ed Hardy and like Dolce & Gabbana. So I had like all these designer clothes and I had purses, and a friend of mine, he was doing like purse parties, killing it. And I was new to the city, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that instead to supplement the income. What I didn't know,
you said you were new to the city.
I was new to that. Well, we moved to the city called Rockford.
After leaving the police department?
We were there, but I didn't really know anybody, right? We were in Rockford, but I didn't know anybody. We were still new to, we had just moved there a few years. We'd only been there like 2 or 3 years.
Got it. 2 or 3 years on the police force in Chicago.
No, in NIU.
NIU?
Yes, NIU is not in Chicago. NIU is like 50 minutes outside of Chicago.
Listen, everybody in ATL, every time we hear Chicago, it's kind of like
is
in Atlanta, right? And everybody's like, no, that is not Atlanta. Like, you do not live in Atlanta. Okay, right. So you're on the police force, and at the same time, you're exploring these.
Yes. So maybe right after, right? So right after, I'm like, let's try to so I get buy clothes. I'm like, yo, girls wear clothes. I know where the girls hang out at. Let's go, do purse parties or whatever. Failed miserably. I just had an attic full of Louis Vuitton, purses and just everything. I tried also, I had this idea. There was this brother, Larry Johnson, former NBA basketball player. So Larry Johnson had this thing called Everlasting Water, right? I'm in the Nation, so this plays a big part of it, right? So brothers are influential, like, hey, you got to try this water. This water is great. So I'm like, I can sell 5-gallon jugs of water. It's pure. I can help people, and it's entrepreneurship. I can take care of my family. So the first day, I don't know, I might have got $5,000 worth of water. So load it up, come back to my house. The water's in the basement, and I'm selling water like crazy. I'm like, yo, I found it. This is the thing. But because there was nobody to teach me the entrepreneurship, I didn't understand that that's my warm market. And once my warm market exhausted,
Okay.
the next day I'm like, yo, I just got a basement full of water and no clientele.
So you're selling water like hotcakes, and you said you identified it was your warm market. So what did you do to start selling your waters in the beginning?
That was it. I didn't see, the thing was, I didn't even know what a warm market was. At this point in my life, I had no idea of anything business related except for the things I was making up at the time. It was all trial and error.
Right, so what were you doing?
I sold to my warm market. I called everybody I knew, buy this water. And then the next day, I was like, how am I gonna move water? So I was like talking to people, asking people, hey, do you drink water? Everybody's like, yeah, we drink water. I'm like, hey, I sell these 5 gallons and it's like a day of all no's, right? And there was nobody to tell me like, no just means not now. Like, take your no's and eventually you're gonna get a yes.
Nobody was buying water?
Nobody was, well, the thing was, they were buying it, they just wasn't buying it from me. Because remember, this is before the internet was what it is, right? This is like 2000, maybe 13, 14 or whatever, right? So YouTube was there, but it wasn't like how it is now, and the internet wasn't quite what it is today.
But I'm talking about, you talk about water. I feel like Iverson, we talking about water.
5-gallon jugs of water. 5-gallon jugs of water.
That's like the ones that you said
they go in the...
Okay.
Yeah, right. Nobody was buying. Nobody. And I was like so discouraged, right? I'm like, yo, I've asked 100 people. Everybody said no. Like, no, we get our water from Walmart. It's 99 cents. I'm like, yeah, but this water's better. It's pure. I had the whole script, right?
You got the full jug.
I got the full thing. And I'll come when it's empty. I'll come pick up your bottle. I'll resupply you. I gave them my whole script. Nobody was moving. Failure.
Ooh,
right?
There are some sad points. What are you thinking about in terms of your skills? Because at this point, you've had 26 jobs. You worked at the police force. You've gone into selling luxury bags. And sales, honestly, is one of those core fundamental skill sets that you have to be able to have as an entrepreneur. So what is it at this time that you are telling yourself, I am good at? As you're experiencing that you're not.
I was good at depression. It's one of those things that it was like, I literally was like, I gotta go get a job, right? And so it's back into the world of getting jobs, and the jobs become depressing. Especially, so I started working like in the schools, which at that time I didn't know was good for me now, but at that time it was so depressing because I was working in the schools and I would see stuff happen to the children that looked like me, and I want to be an advocate, but an advocate for that child means you're fired. So I had to stay quiet.
What does that mean? Advocate for the child means.
So I was security in this school called Kennedy in our school city, right? It's like one of the worst schools in the city. When I got there on the first day, like I was in the school for 2 minutes. I swear to God, this is a real story. A call comes over the radio. We need all security to come to the cafeteria now. Emergency situation. I get down there. There's a little boy this big. He has the 6'2" principal in a headlock. And like, he's going to work on the principal. She's a female. And they're like, we need you to break it up, but you can't really touch the children. And in my mind, I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I'm confused. Why does this boy have the principal in a headlock? And everybody else is normal. Like, this is the everyday activity. So I'm in this school. There's an average of like 4 fights a day. People are cussing teachers. Like, it's wild stuff happening. The teachers themselves were wild. So I'm like, I'm seeing stuff firsthand. And I want to, like, parents are coming in to talk to the administration. And I want to say something to the parents. Like, hey, they're blaming your child for this, but your child's not 100% guilty. Like, I watched this happen in the class. I seen what happened. I can be an advocate for you, but I just can't do it in school. I can tell you outside of school. So I really wanted to say something. I really wanted to stand up and really be able to have that power to like empower the parents and empower the students, because I saw so much stuff being wrong, but I didn't have it because I had a job. And it got to the point where it was like, well, you can either say something or don't. And then the people that worked there before me, they started saying something. They fired them all. So then I was like, okay. My wife was like, listen, Negro, all right, this is job number on the wall, whatever. Like, you need this job. So for me, it's one of those things that was like, if I stay here, I feel like I'm gonna have to like jump off a roof or something, because it's just watching our children suffer like this is in seeing that, knowing that I can help, but I'm not really seen as an asset. I'm just security. But all the children would come talk to me. They would always come run to me, and they would always come tell me things like, can you help with this? Can you help? So they wanted me to advocate for them, but I wasn't in a position to advocate for them because I was just security.
You said just security, but at this time, when did you recognize that you could be a solution to the problem?
Not at that time.
You didn't.
No, I left that job. Not that time.
You just knew I'm not gonna speak up because I need to keep my job, and you also recognize these young people were coming.
I would speak up to my supervisor, and because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Tell your supervisor. And my supervisor was like, "We know," and that's as far as like everything died at the supervisor. Like our job ain't to be involved in the academic affairs of the children. Our job is to make sure people are safe. That's the only thing you need to be involved in. So for me, I'm like, these are my babies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because I know these children outside of the school. Like, I know some of these children's parents. Like, these children are coming and telling me secrets. They're telling me stuff that's happening at home, like traumatic stuff. I'm vested in the lives of these children, but I don't have the power to affect the lives of these children. So for me, it was tough. It was really tough because it's like, you want to help, but everything you're trying to do is really, unless you're going to get fired. And remember, I spoke up before already. I already got fired from the police department job. So I'm like, okay, now I'm rebounding, working security. If you speak up again, you know how it's going to go. So interesting that you asked that. What ended up happening is I rode that job out to the end of the year. I decided at the end of the year, like, I'm not coming back. They're going to pay us into the summer. I'm not coming back. And then I found what really changed my life was refereeing.
Really?
Yes. Refereeing is how we got to this point.
Refereeing for what? Like
sports.
No, but like, is it AAU, basketball?
Everything.
Really?
I did basketball, football, volleyball, baseball, softball. Everything.
External or inside the school? Inside the schools?
Everywhere. Like, not just, so I did the schools, but I did the leagues, I did everything. So
how do you become a referee?
It's pretty easy. In our state, in almost all states, there's like different leagues and things, but you go to your state, there's like a process. You go to a camp, you get certified, you pay like $50, and then.
What was your process? Like, how did you find, because I don't know if I've ever heard someone say, hey, I'm going to become a referee. Now, the funny thing is, though, I did see I was watching a TED Talk with the referee, and he talked about all these skills that he learned about like self-regulation and how to not take things personally.
Absolutely.
Because he's like, everybody, it's your fault. So like, that's probably the only example I know of someone who had gone into being a referee. So how did you find out about refereeing, and how did you pursue it? So
interesting. I learned about refereeing from a 17-year-old kid who was refereeing.
Oh.
He was like, you should do it. It's easy money. I was like, how much they pay? That was my only question. How much they pay? Then I seen like, it was like, oh, once you get good, you can negotiate your own contracts. I was like, huh? So I was like, all right, I played basketball growing up. I know basketball. I can do basketball. So I did it. And after I did a tournament one weekend, and I was like, yo, I just made $1,000 in a weekend. And then life changed because I made it. And in refereeing, because everything is on you, you don't have a boss. You set your own schedule. You work when you want to work. You negotiate your contracts. I was like, yo, I'm onto something. Something feels different now, right? And the crazy thing was, every time I did a sport, I would be refereeing the game, but like every time in between, I would be writing down notes for business. Because I was like, yo, we had a product line, and like our product line, we ended up getting a deal with Walmart, and then we didn't take the deal, and like my product line was growing, and these things were happening. So now my mind is moving. So I was using sports, and I knew that working the sport, it wasn't the end goal for me to be refereeing, but it put me in the mindset of a job enough where it made me creative. So like in between quarters or in between innings or whatever the case may be, I would be writing this stuff down like for business. Then at the end of the game, I would have a list full of stuff for business. Like, I gotta go implement this. And it really helped us grow in business. It helped me grow in entrepreneurship to the point where we were able to take our product line and flip it into an actual retail beauty supply store. And so refereeing for me, it just opened my eyes up like, hey, there's a whole nother world out here that you need to get into. And you're playing, like, all this time you've been looking for something. Here's a clue of what you've been looking for.
It's funny that you say all this time you've been looking for something, because when you find refereeing, you said that you knew refereeing wasn't your end goal. And up until this point, this is the first time we're talking like, I know this isn't my future. It's like, this is the first time in your story we talk about future. So growing up, you talked about Walmart, you talked about the different jobs that you've had. How would you describe what it was like growing up with a vision, with your mindset of success? What was it like for you growing up? What did you think you were going to be doing with your life?
I, like most black children, thought I would go to the NBA, right? And then once I realized I played.
You wanted to go to the NBA?
I wanted to go to the NBA. The thing was, I never played against players that were better than me in my area, and even in our tournaments. Like, we were good until I ended up going to this tournament. I'm about to give my age away now, right? In this tournament, I'm going into high school. I'm not in high school yet, but we're playing against this team called AND1, who at the time, nobody knows who they are. And they have these All-Americans on their team named Kevin Garnett and Ronnie Fields. And Kevin Garnett helped me understand at that point in time, you're not going to the NBA.
Big fish in a little pond.
He let me understand that he was a whale and I was a goldfish. Like, it wasn't even fair. The way, like, their team was like All-Americans. It wasn't even fair, the comparison. Like, I wasn't used to playing basketball and seeing somebody as quick as me. The point guard was like 6'7" and 2 times quicker than me. So I'm like, yo, I can't do nothing with these people. I knew at that moment, like, NBA is not it. Like, you're not going to the league. But I did have some entrepreneurial visions, right? I don't know, I'm gonna share this on you. It's statute of limitations is over, so share this story. It's in my book, I think. So my cousins, I was living in DeKalb. My cousins all moved from Chicago to DeKalb. They all got a job at the 7-Eleven. And one way or another, the lady worked there was like, I'm trusting you guys because none of the cameras in my store work and I'm transitioning out, whatever. So I get a phone call from my cousins like, come to 7-Eleven, you can get whatever you want. So the business mind in me kicked in automatically. I had a huge duffel bag and I began stacking inventory, right? Go to school, I had no books in my locker. I had a long list of products. Like, you could get anything from me: gummy worms, gummy bears, candy bars, dog food, cat food, batteries, magazines. Literally, I was bringing 7-Eleven to school and selling. So I was making like $60 a day in high school selling hot candy, right? And so I was like, I love it.
100% profited.
100% profit. There was no struggle. Yeah. It was all, but it was the idea of entrepreneurship. It was to the point where teachers would be like, hey, you don't got to come to class, but I need, I need this dog food. I need stuff. So I was cutting deals with teachers, right? The art of negotiation. Hey, I need an A in this class and you need stuff too.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. I swear to God.
That a teacher is letting you out of class in order for you to get their
because
snacks.
I was a problem child.
So they didn't want you in class anyway.
It wasn't like they was losing anything. Like, me not being in their class made their class better. Because now your class isn't being interrupted. The class clown isn't there. Nobody's fighting, right? So growing up, I was suspended in school from kindergarten year till sophomore year, every single year for fighting. Every single year I was that kid.
Why would you say you were fighting so much?
Maybe I had daddy issues. I don't know. Maybe because well, here's the thing. My dad left. My parents got divorced at 6 when I was 6. My dad left. He was still around a little bit. He would come and go. So he wasn't like completely void of my life, but he wasn't like in it. But no, it might have been just the social influence, like my peers who I was hanging around, and our influence was like my big cousin who I looked up to was he was a chief, and he was one of the big gangsters in Chicago that was running all kind of stuff, which he got locked up for later. My other cousin who I looked up to, he ended up being a police officer, but he moved out to Chicago Heights. So I didn't have like that male figure role model anymore. And then there were men in my community that did an amazing job providing for us. But it was like they gave us a lot of sports and like Bible study, which was cool. But when sports and Bible study get over at 7 o'clock, from 7 o'clock till midnight, the streets is calling.
Right.
And so now we in the street. And so that was me. Like I was that, like, somebody say something to me. I wasn't the kid that's gonna push you back and forth and talk. It's like, as soon as they say something, it's green light. So from kindergarten to sophomore year, suspended every year without fail for fighting. Junior year, I got expelled on the last day of school. Funny story. Got expelled on the last day of school my junior year because I also was the kid in high school who liked to start food fights. Like, me and my friends, that's what we did, was food fights. So it was finals, last day of school. I didn't have any finals that day, but I came to school with like two duffel bags of stuff. So security got nervous, like, why do you have 2 duffel bags and you don't have any classes? I was like, I just got to get my books. So they let me go to your locker. They opened my locker up. There's like eggs. There's like all kind of stuff for like food fights. They're like, oh my God, I had so much stuff in my locker for a food fight. My friends was dying laughing. I got popped off. So they expelled me, but they couldn't turn the paperwork in time before the day expired. So they couldn't give me an official expulsion. They just said for the summer, you can't come on the property. But they couldn't expel me to come back senior year. And in senior year, I barely went to school anyway.
Why?
So,
because you were in the streets?
Not even because I was in the streets. I already knew I was going to graduate. I had all my credits. I was smart.
Okay. You were smart.
I was smart. I just was troublesome and didn't have. And here's the thing. I can't say that I didn't have guidance, right? Because we say that a lot of times. Oh, these children need guidance. No, the men that were present in my life, they were giving me good guidance. My mother raised me with some sense. I just was acting like I didn't have none. It's one of those things where the children have to go, they have that rebel, where they rebel against their parents. And I was in my rebel phase, and that's just it. I was in my rebel phase, so I was acting like I didn't have no sense.
Okay, so when you look back at it, you know, hindsight is 20/20. What did the influences around you want you to do, or how did they want to, you know, influence you?
I had some men in particular who I love to this day. I give them their flowers. My father wasn't that present, and they represented like fathers in my life. Like my mother got sick, they would take her to the hospital. They had programs that they ran in the summertime. We were always in summer. We were always in AAU basketball, traveling. We used to come to Rockford and whoop Rockford. Shout out to Rockford getting whooped. Right? We used to. They would take us. You get to whoop somebody after that and one. Man. Man, they would take us to, you know, we went to the projects, like in the height of Chicago's projects, like snipers on the roof. We was playing basketball in the projects. So like they toughened us up. Like my coach, when I was younger, Mr. Wright, I don't get him in trouble, but statute of limitations, right? Like we were the generation that because we were so, they understood, like we were so into the streets. Like if we messed up, our coach would like still on us, like straight to the chest shot. But it made us tough because I was like, when I get into a basketball game, if you foul me, I don't care. You might foul me, but if I got to choose between fighting my coach and fighting you, I'm fighting you. So he toughened us up. It made us tough. And I mean, we had men that was doing the best they could do with giving us and pouring into us and, you know, teaching us stuff that we wasn't getting. They was giving us Black history. They were giving us different things, trying to taking us places, showing us stuff. It's just that like nobody calculates when we do stuff like that for children. Like it's good. And you got them till 7, but from 7 to midnight, there's a lot that happens from 7 to midnight. And even if you're like, well, your children should be in the house. Yeah, but they should be. But I wasn't. So
in the beginning, it's so interesting that you had this tumultuous beginning, and not because of external factors, but it sounds like because of like your own internal.
Absolutely.
I don't even know.
I wanted to be like my friend. Like they say peer pressure is real. I was more influenced by my friends than anybody else. So, and my friends, like our influence was like Tupac and Bone Thugs, and like hip hop at that time was extremely influential. So I can't, like, how can I listen to Bone Thugs, right, and be soft at the same time? Like I can't turn on Bone Thugs and then at the same time, like I'm about to go to chemistry class and do this chemistry. Like,
hey, that was some people that
it was
one story.
It was. It just didn't fit me like at the time. Like, and it was. So I wasn't like, I never joined a gang or anything like that, but I was around it. Yeah. And like, because everybody around me was in a gang, and my family, I had family members that was in gangs. It was like, okay, well, if something happens, you gotta be, you know, you gotta stand your mark, let people know you're not a punk. And in my mind at that time, not being a punk was I gotta throw hands. Yeah. Because even though people were pouring into me, there was nobody. I didn't feel like in my life that anybody ever poured into me, like something that was so life-changing that it made me see differently. When I joined the Nation, it did, right? Because I went from like selling, call it street products, from selling street products to reading books, to not smoking, not drinking. Like I stopped smoking and drinking at like 20 and never went back.
When did you join the Nation?
20.
You were 20 years old?
So 20, 21, something like that. So when I joined the Nation, never looked back, right? Never smoked, never drink anything. And I had all these positive male role models in my life that completely changed my life. It was like, hey, respect women, open doors for women, you know, all these principles. So that changed my life in that way, but there was no economic balance there. Yeah. So spiritually, great. Books, I was reading books out this world. I was, you know, in books spiritually there, but economically not there. And it's a huge imbalance to be spiritually, mentally, morally great, but economically it was just missing, and that piece was missing from my life.
Yeah, well, you know, honestly and truly, the making of a man who is spiritually, mentally together, right? But the other pieces aren't there. I'm curious to know, like, what was it like because in entrepreneurship, honestly and truly, sometimes it could be beneficial for you to have a spouse, and then sometimes it can be a distraction, right? True. And for you to have your spirituality and your morals together, you're 20 years old when you joined the say brotherhood? Nation. Yeah. When did you find your spouse? When did you find your wife?
When did we get married? like 24.
You were 24?
Yeah, we got married young. So our anniversary, my birthday is August 3rd, and we got married August 5th.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting because when I met her before she was my wife, she was like, we had a conversation. She was trying to recruit me to do a prepaid legal. Okay. And because she was in prepaid legal, and my captain in the nation was in her thing for prepaid legal. So she was like, oh, I know your people already. So she ran her game. And I was like, well, if you come to me, and I was like, come to the mosque, check it out. She was like, I don't believe in God. So I mean, I'll come, but I don't believe in that stuff. So it was like a good fit at the time. And she was a D1 All-American basketball player. So it kind of, we had our love and basketball type of moments where, we worked at the same gym. She's in college. Yep.
And you're in, what are you doing?
I was supposed to be in college, but I dropped out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you went to college.
I went, yeah, but I just didn't finish. I went several times actually. I was like, I'm gonna go back because I had good grades, but I would be in class and I would like, listen, I'm gonna finish it because I'm here, but like this ain't for me.
Got you. What were you studying?
I started off with sociology. I think I switched to something else, and then I switched, and it was like, this ain't for me. But I was still present, right? So I was getting the experience, but I wasn't necessarily involved. And then, I met her. Yeah. And she was cool. I met her basketball team. We used to go to the games and check them out. And
did you ever join prepaid legal?
I did not.
Okay.
But I will tell you, I did Primerica at like 1920, right? When I joined the nation, I ended up doing Primerica. I made no money in Primerica, but the training.
I'm seeing a trend here. Are you seeing a trend?
I am. The trend is that start, stop, nope. Right? For
some reason, sales.
True.
The water,
true.
Right? Being able to sell the water. Primerica. I think that honestly and truly, one of the things that I admire about entrepreneurs is like the sales skills.
Absolutely.
Right? And
Absolutely.
I never necessarily even had an opportunity to be in a sales opportunity. But
really?
The trend is like,
I did Primerica though, but here's the problem. At 19, if you joined Primerica at 19, your prior years, you should have, if your prior years to joining Primerica, you needed to be straight and clean. None of my people could be clients because they was all in the street. Like you can't get insurance if you couldn't. At that time, you had to be able to pass a weed test. Everybody got high. Everybody was drinking. Everybody was like living this life that I knew. So when I would have appointments running every day, and we'll set up 6 appointments and we'll have 6 failures. And so what I learned though was like consistency, because my coach at the time was my brother and minister and mentor. He was like, listen, you can't let the nose, turn you away. You got to keep going. So I would run an appointment. I made a few checks here and there, and the training was A1. The training is how that training helped me become a public speaker. That training is where I learned like, oh, speak in the mirror. So then I'm like, okay, so that's one thing that I did want to do always, but I just couldn't figure out my niche. Like I always wanted to be a public speaker, but I couldn't figure out my niche. So I was like, I can teach the teachings. Cool. I can represent the minister, but I don't want to be a minister. Right. So I'm like, that's not quite my thing. And I didn't know what it was. And I would get booked for speaking gigs.
It's like you found your niche now.
Oh, absolutely. Now I'm in my bag.
Yeah.
But it is a long road to get there though. Like all this, the last 3 years of my life really and truly is completely different from all the rest. So it's like, it's not an overnight thing because everything else that happened built up to where I'm at now. But because I went through all of that, I was able to build up to where I'm at now. So
yeah. When did education become important to you? Because as I'm looking at you, and I'm sure other people who are looking at you, you're principal of a school, and though it's about entrepreneurship, one would assume that like education became a thing. Would that be a correct assumption?
Well, here's the thing: education is important if we define education properly. So I tell my students all the time, 10 years from now, when you graduate, nobody's going to ask you what your GPA was in the 6th grade. Don't matter, right? The skill sets that you learn matter. So true education should be able to take what's buried deep inside you, pull it out and make you great. Like real education should be able to make you great. So when I talk about education, I'm always making these comparisons from what I've seen in my own city with the majority of, if I looked at like the last 50 shootings, I did a report, last 50 shootings, 40 of them were athletes. And there were athletes who didn't have grades to go to college. They ended up in the street, they ended up getting shot, right? Because that's what happens in the streets, right? But if they had real education while they were in school, they wouldn't even ended up in that position. So when we talk about education, well, how did this child graduate? Another example, when I opened my beauty supply store, there's this young boy that I hired to my store because he was part of a program I did in their high school, and he just graduated high school. I bring him to my store. I'm like, all right, let's get you, set up with the cash register and stuff. Oh, he can't really read. So like, okay, so we test him on Khan Academy. He tests into the first grade.
Okay.
We give him first grade stuff on Khan Academy for 3 months. This kid's in my store going through a notebook with pages full of notes, learning first grade material, and he can't get through it. He's struggling to get through. He's like, yo, I don't understand the concepts. Like, they never taught me this. Like, but you just graduated high school. So for me, without crying, it's like, you gotta do something. It's like, either you're gonna cry about it and just give up, or you gotta do something. So education for me, like, it's not real education unless you can make the child greater holistically, because it's more than just social studies class, science class, math class. Holistically, are you helping that child? Like with our children, yes, we want them to learn those things, but most of our families come from trauma. Most of us come from neighborhoods that are deprived. There's so many other aspects that go into education that's more than just read this textbook, memorize this, and then write this down, and now you're smart. There's so many other facets that go into education. So we can't just look at a child who's watching his mom get beat at night, come to school the next day, he don't want to behave in school, or he don't want to do nothing in school. Automatically a teacher may say, well, you're not behaving. Yeah, but what's the big picture? And education should help inspire to, like, not just that you've seen your mom get beat, what are you going to do about it? Not in the sense that you can go fight your stepdad or whoever this guy is putting his hands on his mom. You might not be able to do that, but in the future, you might be the person who creates the foundation that takes men who suffer from this mental trauma where they feel like they have to put their hands on women, and maybe now you can impact their lives to stop it before it happens. Like for me, that's what education is. So that type of education is extremely important to me. It's got to be applicable. It's got to be real time. It's got to deal with real solutions for our children right now and for our community right now. If it doesn't, that's not education. You're making batteries, and you want factory workers. You want people that's going to go on the line and put the screw in the box. You want people that's not going to think their way out of problems. You want people that's not going to use critical thinking, that don't have high comprehension skills. But real education is completely different. So,
let's go. I want to fix your mic.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
We got a little excited.
My bad. I got turned up a little bit. The heat got turned up. A little bit, something.
I love how you broke that down. How important, like, one, we talk about education from this like turnkey, process where we teach the subjects and then we learn the school. And the way that I learned what I was going to be good at, it was like, oh, I'm good at math, I want to be a CPA. Super linear, right?
Absolutely.
But what you're talking about is this nuanced approach where a person is learning about how to problem solve, how to get out of their own like detrimental situation. You're talking about trauma. So at what point did you decide, I want to create an environment, a learning environment for young people, and it's going to be about entrepreneurship?
That's interesting. So we had our beauty supply store. Above our beauty supply store, we had a second floor that we would rent out for like events and stuff, like event space. So me and my wife having this conversation, we're like, we don't make money on the second floor except for Fridays and Saturdays, sometimes Sundays. Nobody rents it out Monday through Thursday. And we never make money in the daytime. So like, how can we make money in the daytime? What can we do? So my first thought was have a school. I went to Google, did the research, found out a school was way too expensive. So we left the school idea alone. Okay. Because a traditional model school, there's like, you're gonna need $1 million plus to get the game going. So I was like, well, we ain't got that. So we left that idea alone. But as it happens, as time was moving forward over the next couple months, like me and my wife both kept having we would run into these different things that were like glimpses. And it was like, but it wasn't all put together, right? So
glimpses of the vision of a school?
Yes, but it was like, if a school did this, they could, it might look different. And what was happening is just the way my personal belief in like the spirit and spirituality, like the universe was leading us on this path, right? And it was giving us all the signs that we needed to green light this thing. So what it ultimately ends up happening is my wife meets this lady who has a school with one student. So she's like, how are you at school? You only have one? Is it homeschool? She's like, no, it's not homeschool. I have a student. She's like, but you only have one student. She's like, all my other students graduated. This is my last student. After her, I'm closing the school down. Okay. So my wife talks to her. Then she comes home and she tells me about their conversation, and we're talking, and it clicks to us like we can do it. That was June of 2019. We can do it, but it's got to be different from any other school, right? So what are other schools not doing that we can do? And because we were big at entrepreneurship at the time, we're like, let's do entrepreneur. Every student's gonna start a business, right? It just came. We're like, okay, cool. But then we're like, that's not enough because there's schools that teach entrepreneurship. So that's not enough. So like, what else can we do? We're like, well, what if also because our city is, according to Forbes, our city, Rockford, Illinois, is the third worst educational system in America. So in the average literacy rate for our city is 8th grade reading level. So it's like, well, we need something for literacy. What if every student has to read like 100 books? We're like, no, that's too much. What if they got to make their own book? So it's like, oh, so every student has to start a business now, and they have to publish their own book, and then we'll just keep it going. We'll grow that out. Yeah. And literally in June of 2019, we had the idea. In July, we started marketing it. We got our first students. In August, we opened the school doors. Just like that. June of 2019, we had the idea.
August.
July, we started marketing it. August, we opened our door. We had 7 students.
What?
So we had those, and we were charging full tuition. We had like,
what is tuition?
At that time, it was like $350 a student. Okay. Right. So we're like, cool, $350 a student, full tuition, and so my school was above my beauty supply store. So literally during the day, we would be upstairs. It was just me and my wife, because the thing was, our biggest selling point at the time wasn't even entrepreneurship. It was the fact that we had a school with no teachers. So we were like, listen, you don't need teachers. Cut them out. Like, that's not part of the solution right now.
So who was the teacher?
We had teachers. We were the teachers. We were supervisors, right? Okay. Because the way our curriculum works, we don't need teachers. So we're like, all right, so send your children to us, we get them right. And not only that, if your child's behind, we have a system we can catch your child up to where they need to be at. And it may take a year. It depends on how far back they are. It may take a year and a half, but we can catch your child up, and we can get your child to graduate on time, or we can get your child to graduate early if they really got a good work ethic.
Between you and your wife, nobody necessarily has like curriculum experience. So how did you guys come up with a framework that you knew was going to allow a kid to... Was it the Khan Academy experience?
No.
How did you know that you were going to...
I'm going to tell you the secret. This is like, so now I'm doing... Okay, let me back up. Prior to this, and this is like new, this is like the last couple months. This is from me doing Brain Picker podcast with David and Donnie, right? Up to this point in my life, because we own the beauty supply store, I was a premium price coach for people in the beauty industry to teach them how to make more money in their industry without working more hours. That was my thing. I completely dropped it. I was like, I have to teach people how to open schools. And I'm passionate about it, right? Because it's the thing that I realized was the reason our school is able to thrive so quickly and grow so quickly is because we did not have any formal education. As far as, my wife has 3 degrees, but I have none, of course. She has 3, but we have no education as far as running a school. So everything we did was completely non-traditional. Like literally, if the idea is smart, run with it. We just make stuff up. It was all creativity, but it was like, how do we impact these children with creativity in a way? And even though we started off with 7 children, you would have thought there was 100 children there because the love was there. So when this was our first year hiring teachers this year. And the number one credential that our teachers had to have above and beyond is that you had to display, from questions we asked you, that you had a deep love for children who looked like you. Okay. I can teach you other skills. Like I can teach you, if you're struggling in math, as a teacher, we can work on your math skills. If you're struggling, like if you're not good in an area, we can help you in those areas. But if you don't love the children that you're serving, then nothing else you do is gonna come through. There's an automatic block. But if you love the children, your love is gonna let you go above and beyond for those children in ways that nothing else will. So every person that came in that we ran through things was like, listen, how much do you love your children? How much do you love the children in our community that look like you? If you love them, you'll do anything for them. Because love is not an emotion, love is an action word. So put some action behind what you say you'll do for them. And that formula, the school, the notoriety, everything from that point was like...
Girl. Now at this time, did you and your wife yes, you have to have had your own kids. I met your daughter, your lovely daughter. Yes. So how many children do you have of your own?
I have one daughter that you see over there, and I have one adopted daughter. Yes.
One daughter and one adopted daughter. And then, so you had your own children, and were they in traditional school at the time, and did you pull them out?
My daughter, okay, I got to brag on my daughter now. So when we bring her in later, I can talk about it, but I got to brag as a parent, right? Now I'm not like the entrepreneur, I'm the parent. So my daughter, we decided when my wife got pregnant that, number one, because Rockford, third worst education in the system, she's never going to public school. Never. It's never happening. So when we found out my wife was pregnant, we began reading books to her in the womb. right? The day she came home from the hospital, we sat her in front of the TV, turned on so your baby can read, and we would do educational sessions with her from that time. So my Facebook page got hacked, so I lost a lot of footage and everything, but I think my wife still has some. So there's footage of my daughter at 2 years old at the whiteboard doing long math problems. She's like, 6,794,334,296 plus 37 trillion, such and such. And she's place value, addition, carrying the numbers, saying them out loud, writing them down at 2, right? She could read at 2. So one thing that was attractive to parents that we always heard growing up, that as she was growing up, was, what are you doing with your daughter? Like, can you give that to our children? And we don't do nothing special. We just give her time. And literally every day we give her time. And it was not a lot. For when she was younger, we homeschooled her, and I would do school with her for an hour a day. And it would be fun school. It's like, we had a big map on the board. Go to the map and, show me Antarctica. And she would take like the little polar bear and be like, Antarctica, and slip it on there, and like fun stuff, right? Oh, here's a map. Show me the 9 planets. And she'd be like, my very educated mother just served us Mercury, Venus, Earth, and go through and like, so.
You said my very educated mother
just served us 9 pizzas.
9 pizzas?
Yeah.
I have never learned that.
It's a mnemonic thing, right?
I mean, yeah, obviously, yeah. I don't think I'll ever forget it, but now I have to figure out the planet, right? Go with it.
It's the first letter of each word, right?
Yeah.
Mercury, Venus, Earth.
Let's go, Pops.
Mars. So she, so she was brilliant as a child, right? And it's interesting for me because I was always smart, but I was like,
you didn't apply yourself.
I didn't apply myself. Like I didn't have the motivation. And I have a good work ethic if it's towards something I want. But like Walmart, I gotta share this story in your podcast. Don't judge me, y'all. Okay, this what made me feel like and know that these jobs did not value me. I was working at Walmart night shift, right? And night shift jobs were terrible for me. They didn't work out for me too good. So it's like 2:00 in the morning, and everybody's supposed to go out and get all the carts and everything, and they all bring them inside. So this when Walmart was 24 hours, of course. So I take my break. I set my break up to go concurrently with that. So everybody's out working, I can double my break time. All right. So I'm like, cool. I'm gonna get a 30-minute break instead of 15-minute because I ran it with this. I set it up some type of way. So I go to my car. I turn on Dusty's on my mama's radio station, and they was jamming this night. Man, I laid back in the car. Next thing I knew, I looked up. It was the end of my shift. It was like 10 minutes to 7 when my shift was over. I was like, I'm about to get fired. I slept through my whole shift. I ran inside, running my aisle. My supervisor was there, and she's like, I just want to congratulate you on the work you did tonight. She's like, I've never seen your aisle done this good before. Like, your the way you stocked tonight or you zoned the stuff was amazing. Always do your zoning like that. And I realized they didn't even notice I was gone. So when you talk about feeling invaluable, like you're not, like you don't, like if I die, Walmart's going on. Wow. So I was like, nobody noticed I was missing?
Wow.
So now I'm at work really depressed because I have no, like, you don't even need me. I'm just here to fulfill your numbers. So you can say we have this many black people working for us and go stock our shelves. And whether you stock them or not, the show goes on. So like that experience taught me then, I was like, yo, I need to do something in life where I matter, because I don't matter here. Like they could care less. Like, how do I sleep through a whole shift? And yeah, I ended up getting fired from there anyway.
You mentioned twice now, like your experience with like depression. And I'm curious, like over the years of you trying these different things, right? What is your internal drive? What are you speaking to yourself? What are you like feeding yourself mentally at this time?
So I don't mean depression in a way of like, I was never the type of person to be like super down on myself for a long time. Like it would be the most depressing part was having to go home and tell my wife I lost another job. Like, is this marriage gonna continue? Like how long is this woman gonna put up with my I can't keep a jobness, right? Because it was some tough days in them households. Those are the longest drives. But for me, I always handled my depression by getting back into the community and like working to give back to people. So like, I knew I didn't have nothing. I knew the lights was out, but I knew, man, if I take these next 4 hours in these streets and I go help these people, like I know God's going to bless me somewhere. Like I've read in the scriptures, I've seen you give, you want to receive, you give, you give, you give. So I literally gave of myself to my community to the point where I've been in the middle of gang wars where folks had guns pulled out with no weapons in the middle, stopping, shootings from happening. I've been in places with domestic violence, with women being abused, like stopping rapes, like real life things happen where I put my life on the line for the community, all while struggling. So, but those things, when I would hit these tough times, I'm like, I know I'm a good person. Like deep down inside, I know I have value, but I just couldn't find a way to extract it, to monetize it where it made sense. But I knew, I was like, man, you know what? My name is gold. Yeah. So I just don't have no gold. My name is gold, but I don't have gold.
I was thinking of a E.T. quote. He said, being a good person doesn't necessarily make you money.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that resonated with me a lot. As you're talking, it's speaking straight to my social work side, right? And wanting to be a good person and pouring into other people, even pouring into people when you don't have it yourself.
Absolutely.
Now I actually realize that might not necessarily be the most healthy thing to do. But there are times where you giving to other people just makes you feel good as a human. I don't know why we do that. So like, as you are building this school, somewhere in your mind, your value of money started to shift. When
Absolutely. So there was this book, right? It's always a book, and it was Think and Grow Rich. And what I had learned in the nation, when I read Think and Grow Rich, everything in my life clicked. It was like, this is the moment I've been waiting for. Literally, I saw everything different. I was like, I need to be teaching this to people. Nobody else knows this, right? I started coaching, $25 an hour, you can get me. And all my clients was killing. I had clients coming in like, here's $100. I need you for the next 4 hours. I'm gonna book you every day. I need you. And I'm like, yeah, I made $500, but I'm exhausted. And I'm like, man, this ain't it. Like, I'm on $25 an hour, ain't it? Like, I'm helping these people. They have crazy results. Folks is telling me how they're thriving. I'm like, all my clients make more money than me. They don't know, but I'm like, this ain't it. So I'm like, $50 an hour. Still ain't it. Clients are coming in, still having amazing results. This ain't it. $100 an hour. This ain't it. $200 an hour. This ain't it. Like, something is not clicking. But I was going through this process because once I read Think and Grow Rich, and it's crazy because I had a bunch of these books in my house and just never read them. Like, my wife had them from when she was in like prepaid legal, but she never read them. So we had the bookshelf that looks good, but it was dusty. So I'm like, how to win friends and influence people? Oh, I do this now. That's how you network. I'm like, oh, okay. Richest man in Babylon. What? Oh, okay. Rich dad, poor dad. Oh, 4 quadrants. Like, now it's clicking. And now I'm like, okay, now everything was like every single day. So it took me to the point where I was like, all right, I have to get up early in the morning. Not because I want to get up early in the morning, because I don't have enough time in the day to take in everything I need. So I'm up early in the morning. Les Brown, E.T. I'm on go. I'm like, all right, cool. From here, I got this audio book. Okay, I got to go to the gym. I got to work out. Okay, I got to be here. I got to meet people. Like, everything began to it was almost like in one inkling of a twinkle of an eye, like everything changed. But Think and Grow Rich did it for me. Think and Grow Rich was like, why did I not read? Like, why did part of what drives me in the school is I just wished, like, in hindsight, that somebody would have came to me at that young age, like, here's this book, I need you to read it. Like, if I would have Think and Grow Rich at 21, I would be a billionaire now. Like, just nobody was there teaching that in my neighborhood. Like, everybody I knew that had a business that looked like me was still struggling. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, you got a business, but you asking me to borrow money. You know what I mean? Like, we in the same boat. Right. So, and trying to pour into, trying to be fed by someone who's not even, like I said, pouring from abundance. It doesn't make for an environment for us to actually grow. Right. What I love the most about the school concept that you had in 2019 is that you came up with this concept where they were going to publish their own book. And I was just talking to Anita about how I think it's really, really important that young people learn how to tell their stories. Absolutely. The highs, the lows. I think for a 30 and 40-year-old, 50 and 60, they're just getting to a place where they can tell their story, where they can dive deep and explore with themselves. Why was it a book? And then what is the process that you guys help them get to tell a story? Is it tell their story? Is it tell imaginary stories? Are there any qualifiers around like this book stipulation? Yeah, so we've been growing this process, right? Because remember, this is only our 3rd year, right? So initially the process was like, all right, everybody do a book. We had majority younger children. It was like, all right, do a fictional book, and we help them through it. Because our youngest published authors were 4. So they're writing a book, but they can't read, right? Themselves, they're learning how to read, or they're learning how to sound words out. So we take them through this process of, okay, we're going to write a book, but what's a plot? What's a story? What's a character? What, how are you going to develop this character? What's the main theme of this? So we teach them the points of writing a story. And for the younger children, it's learning, what's the body? What's a body? What's a paragraph? What's a period? For them, it's English class, but it's English class in a way that's fun, right? So my wife, she does authorship for our children, and it's like the developments. We'll walk them through a Dora story. What's the plot of Dora, right? What's the plot of Black Panther? What's the theme? Who's the main characters? What happened? What's the outcome? So we walk them through this. This thing with authorship. So now we're at this point, and it hasn't happened yet. Where this is like speaking into next year. What me and my wife discussed is for our older students, we want them to they can do a fictional book, but we realized because students were doing books over the summer, because some students was like, once students didn't want to do books. When I bring Jazzy on, you'll see, right? She's like, I never want to write a book. Then you write a book. Then students get the bug, like, oh, I could write books. Oh, I'm making money off my books. Oh, I'm writing books on a regular. I have my nephew down in Houston. He's from Detroit. Now he's down in Houston. He was like, yo, my second book ready to go. Like, huh?
You're influencing everybody.
Yeah, my daughter is an illustrator, his illustrator. So we try to get my daughter to hurry up and make the images because he want his book out. So by the time we come back to school, he's like, oh, my second book done. I'm working on my third book. So children who the public school said had problems learning, problems reading, problems with literacy. No, they just were exposed to something that touched them, that when it touched them, they're on go. And so he's not the most bright student when it comes to he's not the top of math. He's not the top of none of his things, but he writes books consistently. Yeah. And he goes out and markets his books. He goes out, I want to say his mother told me he sold his book to his entire elementary school that he went to before he came to us. So yeah, you can't tell me that little boy, because he's not the brightest in math class, is a failure because that didn't reach him yet. You got to give him what's going to take him to that next level. If he gets to the next level and realizes, man, if I'm selling all these books, people could steal my money. I need to know math. It's going to inspire him to do math, right? Rick Ross said he's not that good at math, right? He said he barely knows multiplication, but the boy worth millions and millions of dollars, because once you find your passion, once you find that thing that's going to drive you, it's going to help you in those other areas, because now you got motivation to do those things. And so we found that with our children, and with any child, if you give them that, despite all the other traumatic circumstances, because a lot of our children that come to us have extreme trauma. Despite all the trauma, there is a bridge out if you give them something that touches them the right way.
Yeah. So and the creativity around being able to just create a story out of your own mind. It sounds like fiction is the direction that you guys are going in.
Next year it's going to be different, though.
I would love to see a young entrepreneur, real story.
Absolutely.
Type of just.
So this was the last year we let everybody be able to do fictional books. Next year, for high school and above, they have to. Well, I think juniors and seniors have to do a reference research book, but freshmen, sophomore next year have to do some type of book that they can use to help assist their business. So even if you're an author and you're like, well, I sell books. Okay, well, you need to write a book teaching people how to write a book and develop that into your coaching business. And we're going to help show you, and we'll bring Marquell in, and we already have Client Attraction University. You're going to come here. You're going to learn how to market this to make money, because our goal for our students is not just to start a business, say you did it. It's to make money. The big goal is that we want six-figure earning students in school while you're in school. Retire your parents. You see what I'm trying to tell you? No, parents need to be retired.
I love that goal.
Us 80s babies who suffer through crack cocaine need to be retired, okay? We need retire us.
Yes.
So that's the goal, six-figure earning students while in school.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. 100% love that. It changes the whole face of education, I will tell you. And as a person who I don't have any experience in the education system, I do understand though the hang up that a lot of people with degrees and stuff might get on. But you guys are getting results. So what was it like after 2009 to launch it, right? To see what type of results you actually were getting in the program?
It was part of, what's crazy about it? I learned a lot of stuff that I learned or am learning now. I didn't realize we were doing until after I learned it. So when I was reading Think and Grow Rich, I was like, huh? Oh no, I already write my goals down and say them in the morning and night. I already talk in the mirror. They're giving the exercise. I'm like, I already do this stuff, but now I'm putting a face to the name of stuff that's happening. So for us, it's really been part of the journey of just try it. Like I'm really big on, I can help you with something if you're doing something, but I can't help you with nothing. You have to be doing something. Start and then grow in the public. And so I'm that type of person. Like, we're going to grow in the public. Like, we just started our podcast a couple of days ago. Had no clue what we're doing, right? I was like, I just missed it.
You didn't call me.
But here, okay, to be fair, right? To be fair, I was like, I know a bunch of people with dope podcasts already, right? So I told this was the smart thing. I made sure my partner was somebody of high value that could help me out in life in general. And she knows a lot about, she's a news anchor. So she knows a lot about different things. And I was like, I just missed the Launch Your Podcast Challenge. I couldn't do it because I had other stuff going on. I was like, I know all these people with dope podcasts, but I'm not going to call them up front. I was like, let's try. I want to try it and have something in proof of concept. Like, okay, this is what we did. How can we improve?
Yes.
I don't want to call and be like, all theory. I'm not the type of person. This is what we did. Yeah. These are the things we're trying to learn. How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do this now? Because now I have something I can learn from because something's being done. But if we're doing nothing, we're just talking about it. It's just talk. That's so fair. I have a student, shout out to Angela. She's watching. She wants me to shout her out, right? She's been telling me about starting a podcast for forever, right? This semester she came to school, I want to start a podcast. Cool. I think she was there when you came. She's like, I want to be her. Okay, cool. So she wants to start a podcast. She kept asking me, will you be a guest on my podcast? So I told her, on your 11th episode, come ask me.
Let's go.
She's like, why can't I get you up front? I'm like, because you don't believe yet. Like, I believe in you, but I need you to believe in you. And if you do 11 episodes, it shows me that now you're vested in what you're doing. You got some skin in the game. Yeah. If you just do 1 or 2 episodes and like you're expecting to get clout off of me, and I'm like, listen, I ain't the person to get clout off of. Okay, like it ain't gonna work. It don't work like that.
Right, your listeners might not even care.
Like,
you know what kind of show you create.
Yeah, so I do 11 episodes or do 10 episodes. On the 11th episode, come ask me.
Got it.
And if you do that, now I can help you. Now I can be like, okay, I've watched these episodes, I've seen these things, and most likely, because I'm just getting the podcasting myself, I'm gonna put you on the phone with Ariel. I'm gonna put you on the phone with Jonathan Jones. I'm gonna put you on the phone with Shamika. I'm gonna put you on the phone with everybody because these are the people I'm going to ask. Like, what makes my school successful is because I know for a fact that I don't have the information. I don't know it. I'm not the best, but I know so many brilliant people that are good at it. I don't try to, it's not about me. It's about the children. So I literally invite guest speakers in every week, step inside, teach the babies, pour into them. I don't have it to give to them. I just have you people that I know have these skill sets pour into the babies. Yeah. And that's literally my whole game plan. Like, it's not me. It's not about me. If the children get the result, I don't care who teaches them. Like, and that's why I want a private school. Because now I can call you up and say, hey, teach these babies about podcasting. Yeah. Boom, done. Right?
You have to go through all the red tape.
No red tape. Yeah. I talked to David and Donnie and I was like, listen, when we did behind the scenes with Brain Picker Podcast, I was like, you like the idea of the school? Hey, we love it. All right. What do I got to do to get you all to teach podcasting to start a podcasting club in my school? We'll get it funded. What do we got to do to get you to have a podcasting club in the school to teach them? Because I can't do it. Because clearly, if they got to choose between me as a coach and David Shands, I'm going to choose David Shands 100%. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm going to choose David Shands. David Shands is the reason I want to do podcasting. Like, David Shands is the reason. David Shands network is one of the biggest networks I'm a part of that brought me to where I'm at here. So, yes, I'm going to go to you. I watch Work and Play podcasts. Why would I try to reinvent the wheel when it's already being done?
That's super smart.
So, that's my philosophy.
Would you say you guys have, maybe in the beginning you didn't, and maybe even now you don't, but what are the pillars of Kikifer's Academy? What would you say the pillars are? The core values.
Love. Love is the necessity, right? So you got to have love. And then I would say consistency, right? And consistency, and not just in like me as an owner, but consistency in the people around. Like, I want consistent people. So unfortunately, we've had to make changes here and there, right, within our school. But like, if you're a teacher and I bring you on, I want you here for the year, the duration, to be consistent with the children, consistently learning, consistently growing, consistently getting better. I want consistency there. So love, consistency, and then I would say definitely passion, right? Because like, my passion for what I do, I want that in the children. I want them to be passionate about whatever it is they want to do. Like, so when I'm talking to the children, usually in the mornings, because we have assembly every morning, they're still sleepy. They're looking at me. Why is this dude so on 10 at 8 o'clock in the morning. But they don't know. I got up at 4:30. I already been to the gym. I've already been on the morning meetup. I got another coach who I've already checked in with at 5:30. I'm fired up already. Like I got my goals in my office. Like I'm about to go work. I know they think we just be in there like throwing darts. They think we be in there chilling, but like I'm ready to go work. Like I got clients lined up. I got meetings. I'm excited because I'm passionate about what I'm doing, and I want them to find that same passion. So you got to have passion, and it's got to be as the person in the school. Not just. And the thing is, even if you start a school and you're not within the Kikifer's structure, still have these things in your school. Yeah. It's gonna make your school thrive. And then, last thing I would say, to give the fourth one. So we said love, we said consistency, we said passion, say vision. You gotta have vision. Mm-hmm. You gotta be able to see. You're not gonna know how it's gonna come together. It's not if God showed you how it's gonna come together, you'll quit, right? Like everybody says. But if you have vision and you can see it, then you know it's coming. Like so. I didn't share this part of my story, but this is super dope, I promise. So the second year of the school, second year of the school, I get in a car accident. I was sitting at a light, a car whips through the light, another car goes to turn, car hits it, the car flips the car flips, lands on my car, crushes my car. I get out,
your car.
Crushes the front end of the car.
Okay.
I get out unscathed, but I learned about this thing I didn't know about called gap insurance because I had a note on the car. Didn't have gap insurance. So long story short, after the rental cars and all the different stuff happens, we end up with no car. And we had an option. Either go get a new car or keep investing in the school. So I was like, well, I know that the school is going to make me a millionaire. So you got to keep investing in the school. So then we run into a problem. What are we going to do? Because we don't have a car to travel. We can't. At this point in time, we had no teachers. How are we going to get to school, right? So a parent who goes to the school says, well, hey, I have a beater that's terrible car, but I can give it to you for tuition for the month. Instead of giving you tuition, I'll give you the car. Okay. Cool. Mind you, we're in Illinois. I need your followers to know this ain't Atlanta. This is Illinois with the bipolar weather. Yeah. In the winter, the heat only runs for like 1 minute at a time, then it goes back to air conditioning. There's no mirrors in the car. The window only rolls up to 7/8, right? Ew. Windows down in Illinois in the winter on the coldest of cold days, right? My daughter will tell you, all of us in the car bundled up, extra coats, gloves, hats, scarves. We're bundled up because we're driving through this time, this was a cold winter. It's like negatives outside, like -10, -15. I'm driving places in this beater that only has heat maybe 4 times in a 30-minute trip, driving in this beater. But the vision was the school's got to operate, right? So how this story ends, we get to a point, I'm like, yo, we can't do this anymore. Like, we saved up some extra money on the side, and I'm like, all right, we're going to take this money and get a car. The day that we went to go get a new car, we're driving the beater, we get to the light in front of my beauty supply store, the car just goes out completely. Wow. We had to push it from the intersection to the parking lot of my beauty supply store, and my friend came and picked us up and took us to get the car. Wow. But the vision was like the school has to thrive. Like no matter what happens, we can lose anything and everything. We'll go homeless, but the school got to survive. If the school survives, we might go homeless, but we'll get a bigger home. Like if the school survives, we might lose everything, but we'll get it back bigger and double and triple and quadruple. Like, so we both had this vision that like, this is it. Like literally my purpose for living, my purpose for being on the planet, I have found in the school. So I'm like, this got to survive no matter what. And so from that, of course, that day we were able to get a new car. Thank the Lord. But when you talk about like what do you see, having vision, that was because I understood. I was like, right now, what we have, nobody else in the country has. I'm like, and I have a coach that's a billionaire named Antonio T. Smith down in Houston. And he was like, listen, your problem is not that you don't have the perfect solution to education. It's that you don't have the visibility and the eyes that you need to grow your school the way you need to grow it. He's like, you got to get in front of people. And you don't know the science yet to get in front of people, the right people that can take you to the right places. Cool. Once he told me that, it was like laser focus. It's like, we got to keep growing this thing because sooner or later, we're going to get in front of the right person. Then I started seeing this thing like Social Proof Podcast, and I'm like, who are these people? Huh? What? It's all these entrepreneurs? What? Atlanta? So we take Atlanta, circle it. I'm like, something's happening in Atlanta with black people that I need to be a part of because the education there is different. Not in the schools, there's so many successful people coming out of this system. It's not like Chicago. It's not like any of these other places I've been. Something's happening in Atlanta. Yeah. So when to fast forward, when I met A. Donahue Baker, I had told him, I was like, yo, I need to meet this dude, David Shantz. Like, this dude is amazing. And I just want to meet him and thank him in person. He was like, oh, that's my man. I got you. Hey, go buy a plane ticket, fly to Atlanta, wear all white, come to Atlanta, I got you. And that was the alumni dinner. So I told him, I was like, it's on my manifestation list for the year was to meet David Shantz.
Wow.
It's like, we're all white.
I can't imagine what else is on your manifestation list.
Well, you know what? Everything that was on there, I hit. I was like, we got to be able to make like $20,000 in a month. So the first month, when I made like $60,000 or $70,000 in a month, I was like, this is different. So I was talking to Marquell about it, and he was like, 60? Yeah. And I realized there's levels. Like, he's like, yeah, but he's like, that's because you're not working yet. We'll get you right. And I'm like, the people I was talking to, I talked to Dr. Jacob Taylor, and he's like, at the alumni dinner, this is my first time meeting him, he's complaining that he only made 1.8 in a day. So I'm at the table and I'm confused. I'm like, yo, because I ain't used to this type of language. I'm like, yo, fam, what you say your name was? He's like, yeah, I'm Dr. Jacob, whatever. Okay. When you say you only did 1.8 in a day and you're visibly upset, like his face, he's like upset, like hitting the table, like, man, they ain't get it right. I'm like, when you say you did 1.8 in a day, what do you mean? Mm-hmm. He's like, man, we got to fix our systems. We got to, this ain't right. It ain't like, what do you mean with 1.8? He said, we only made 1.8 million. I'm like, in a day? He's like, yeah, in a day. So my mind, I'm trying to figure out, right? Like, I didn't realize at that time he made 23 million a month. So he's like, when we run this play normally, we make $4 or $5 million. So I guess if you're used to making 5, you did 1.8. That's 40%, I guess, But in my mind, I'm like trying to calculate, like, 1.8 in a day? Right. I'm like, you successful, Mm-hmm. But and I started realizing this levels. And I met a couple other people there that was like so extraordinary. And the women, like, I'm a huge believer in. I heard Dame Dash say it, and I heard the guy from I think Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank talk about the value of women, right? And I'm a huge proponent of having women run your business, put them out front, let them be creative, and step out of the way. Like, let them women run it, right? And so I met some sisters at Social Proof that was so cold. I was like, I just have to ask you a question. Like how? Like, how do you do what you do? And it was like, literally, it's like being in front of your heroes in real time and like seeing people that float. Like, I know they walk, but they float. Mm-hmm. It's like, yo, how do you do this? And so I've taken that same approach though. Like, my teams, anytime I get a chance to set up a team of women to run anything, I'll let it run with it.
Oh, that's so contrary to my personal beliefs, child. Don't have me running like a dog.
Look, I don't know what y'all do in y'all meetings when it's just y'all, but I know the product that comes out is gold.
Absolutely.
It's gold.
We do that. We definitely do the doggone thing. But I don't know if we want to do it.
I mean, you know what? I never try to pour out like, hey, I need you to do, whatever. But if it can get done and like folks like got the will to do it, hey, go ahead and run that thing. Let me know what you need from me. I'll give you the vision. This is what I want to see done. Can you do this?
I love it.
And it's just like every time I put a team together, it's been highly successful with women running it in the forefront. And it just gives you a greater respect, of course, for like women. Like, yo, when I talk to brothers and they be like, what tools you think I should need for entrepreneurship? What should I do? I'm like, respect the women in your life and value the women in your life. And if you have a woman in business that's a good partner, let her, like, don't let your machismo hinder your own progress.
Your machismo?
You're being macho.
Got you.
Right. Don't let your testosterone become so over dominant that you stop her from being creative when she could be the element that what you prayed for could be in her. And she's the one coming to like if Mary didn't deliver Jesus, wouldn't be no Jesus, right? So yeah, Jesus is valuable, but without Mary, there is no Jesus. So when Mary comes to you to give birth to something that's going to take you to a new level, I'm gonna need you to put some spec on Mary's name. That's part of that. Like, put some spec on Mary's name, like, 'cause you just never know. You might be entertaining an angel unaware, and how you treat her. And I've seen it. Like, I know a story personally where a brother he did a sister wrong, and everything she was trying to do was for him, and he couldn't see that she was his ticket out. I seen it. I was like, yo, if that don't work out, come holler at me. You know what I mean? 'Cause like, yo, she's cold, and you, because your pride as a man, I get it, as a man, we got to beat our chest, we got to be tough, we got to know all the answers, no, that's That's not true education. That's that false education that's given to us that has us acting a certain way in the streets, has us doing foolish stuff, that has us thinking a certain way. But let the ego go just a little bit. Yeah. You know, I know for men it's tough. I know brothers gonna shoot me for saying this on your podcast. You only said that because he was on her podcast. No, this is my everyday philosophy. Your ego's cool, but she will actually inflate your ego with success. So find you some good women and let them be creative and work out in their space. Before you know it, different level.
That's a fact. Let them flourish and do what they do. That's the foundation of the podcast.
Absolutely.
Being able to work and to live and do what we do and be creative. So if whatever you do enhances a woman, which enhances a man, I'm for it.
It's like, what's that? You know that phrase? It's like if you give a woman like, what is it like? If you give her let's say if you give her a house, she'll give you a home.
If you give her bread, she'll give her a meal or something like that.
That's the thing. If women are natural multipliers and you want your business to grow, get you some strong women and then don't abuse the women.
You heard that, guys.
Brothers, I'm sorry. Like, I know she looked good, brother. I know, right? But if you got one, that's for you. Don't ruin the crops. Don't ruin the crops. I understand, you know, but
listen, okay.
Listen. The sister that I'm doing the podcast with, she's beautiful, right? Everybody knows this. So when I told everybody, like, we're doing a podcast together, all these different people was like, you gotta be careful. You gotta, like, no, you don't understand long range. You don't understand long range business, right? Yes, she's beautiful. She's gonna attract a certain audience because she's beautiful, but it ain't about because she's beautiful, right? It's about what does she have? Like, what's the value of her? So for you, you're telling me be careful because you're putting yourself, if you was in my shoes, you like, I know what I would do, but you ain't me. Right. And that's why you don't got the success that I got, because you're not disciplined enough to stay in your lane and understand that, like, you're looking at her for your own selfish needs and you're not thinking about the whole. But in my mind, I'm like, yo, if she brings this to the table, we could create a podcast in our city where there's no major podcast. There ain't no 7-figure podcast in our city. We can create a 7-figure podcast in our city, and then all the children in my school that want to do podcasts, we can plop them right up, and now they have a internship or a mentorship with a 7-figure podcast they can go to, because it's long range planning. Because I'm thinking legacy and you're thinking right now. Yeah. And that's the difference. It's vision. So that goes right back to that pillar.
It does. It goes right back to that pillar. Also, the man you are today, it's fair to say, has evolved over time.
Absolutely.
Right? When you talk about, like, hey, you need to build a school, this is like the way that you can actually build money. You speak about it from a monetary perspective, right?
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you want your students to get results, and that's clear. You're passionate about it. When you look at yourself and your personal development and your growth, what are the skill sets? Like, we talking like career coaching 101. What are the skill sets that you feel like have created the foundation that you have today that make you good at what you do as the principal of Kikifer's Academy?
Okay, next year I'm not gonna be the principal. I gotta put this out there. I'm gonna hire somebody else as the principal.
Okay.
I'm not like a natural principal, right? But I'm a good model for the children to look up to.
Okay.
Right. So, but with that being said, in my position, I'm marketing. So when it comes to marketing, I'm attracted to people that do marketing, because that's my thing. Like, I like being on podcasts. I like being out front. I like being in front of the news camera. I like, talking about and bragging on the students and bragging on the results. Like, I like that for me, being consistent when doing that. Like, in person, I can close a deal with anybody. Like, I'm a closer. So if you sit me down, care who it is, we're closing the deal. Right.
Except if it's Primerica or
except if it's Primerica. But here's the thing. I know I could close in Primerica now. I did WFG, which was a spinoff of Primerica, and I didn't want to do it. My wife forced me to do it. She's like, she said that I needed to expand my network. My network was too, streamlined. I need to expand more. So I'm like, okay, so I did it. And I was making money with WFG without trying. Like, literally, I would set the appointment up. I would have my financial advisor run it, and I'm like, I'll split it with you, or you can write it off to me however you want to do it, but I'm not passionate about it. So I was making money, checks coming in. I'm making more money than I ever made selling insurance as in financial vehicles. I have the knowledge. It's just not my passion. So if I had to do Primerica now, I'm a different person now than I was then. I'm closing. I'm a closer now.
I love it. And you know what I really recognize and I appreciate about how you describe your leadership is knowing your gift is to market. Understanding that you like to be in front of the camera. back, I'm sure when you were working at Walmart, that wasn't necessarily an option.
Not at all.
But the fact that you're able to stand in front of the camera now, be in the limelight, market the school, talk about the greatness that the kids are doing, that sounds like a perfect fit for you.
Perfect. And you know what's beautiful about it? It's like a double entendre. The fact that I'm married to my wife, but the things that I love to do, she doesn't. So you'll never, like, occasionally you'll see her on like Brain Picker, but you'll never really see my wife anywhere. She doesn't like being on camera. She don't like doing the interviews. She like being super low key, behind the scenes. She loves doing paperwork. She loves doing the research. Like all the stuff I don't want to do. Like I just want to be seen and talk about it. But the actual work portion of it, like, who's gonna fill out the paperwork to make sure we legit? She got that. You know? So it works out. Like, you know, our business marriage is probably stronger. I won't say stronger, but our business marriage makes more sense than us being married, because we literally complement each other. And it goes to this point that I heard Napoleon Hill say from Think and Grow Rich, where he said, the strongest mastermind alliance you can have is a husband and wife duo. And a husband and wife duo can get more done in 1 year than you could get together than you could get done individually in 7 years. Oof. So it makes sense. 3 years to hit 7 figures, because that's 20 years in the game, which is the average time to make 7 figures. So you speed it up to 3 years, because now I'm working with my spouse. And people say, well, if you work with your spouse, you'll see them too much, you'll fall out of love. But the complete opposite is true. If you work apart from your spouse and you're on that job and you see the other pretty girl, it doesn't matter that you want to be faithful. Like the natural attraction of men and women, if y'all start spending that much time together, naturally you're gonna start looking like, you know, what they call it, work wives and whatnot. Well, that's my work wife.
Yep.
And she might start off as a work wife, but I'm not big on I've been married almost 16 years. I don't teach nothing relationships, but I can tell you from my relationship that if she a work wife today, she a side wife tomorrow. I know that much is real. So working with my wife, every failure I experience, she's there. So she knows. Every high, she's there. She knows. Every low, like everything in between, she's there. So I don't even have to explain it. She knows. So in the days when it's tough, I don't have to like try to explain it to her. Oh, it was tough today at the job. This happened. She already knows. She's in the grind with me. Now we can converse on it. Now we can game plan together, we brainstorm together. Now the next thing that rolls out, we come out with together and execute. So
let's go.
That's how we do.
I have really enjoyed getting into your journey. You got a lot to uncover, and I'm sure we only hit the tip of the iceberg.
Yes. Usually
I like to end the conversation with like a word of wisdom, but you know, we got special guests here.
We do.
And I think that it would be really dope, because we are talking about the young people. They are a product of your school. They are the results that we are talking about.
Absolutely.
I think it's actually really dope that we can have a tangible example of that.
Absolutely.
So if my girls would come and share a word of wisdom, maybe.
Yes. Can I say for these young ladies that I am so impressed. I have 3 here with me today, right? These young ladies are today what I wish I could have been when I was their age then. So for me, when I see them, even if they don't see it, I'm like, your future. Like every single person that comes and talks to our children is like, yo, if I had that when I was your age, and they don't know it yet, but I just, I wanted to say that on the podcast publicly, like, I wish when I was their age, somebody could have poured into me. Yeah. Like, I didn't have Ariel come show me how to run a podcast in my school. Of course, it wasn't out at that time, but still, the equivalent of whatever was
Absolutely.
out.
Run a newspaper.
I didn't even have black teachers that looked like me or a curriculum that talked to me. So I'm very proud of these girls and other students too. But they got to come to Atlanta to meet with Marquel and do the whole thing because they earned it in school. They did well in business. They did well academically. Their behavior is good. They have good rapport with their parents. Like, they really have been all-stars. So they earned being here. It's not, I didn't just pick them out the hat. They literally had to earn being here. So I'm very, very proud of these girls.
Ladies, it is your time to shine, because I would love to hear a little bit. One, say your name. You gotta say your name. Where can we find you? What are you guys working on right now? And feel free to share a word of wisdom to the folks who don't have their business or haven't necessarily gotten the grasp of entrepreneurship yet. Who wants to go first?
Me. I want to go first.
I love it.
My name is Samaya. You can find me on Instagram at dream_with_myathon, MYATHON, and I sell watercolor art.
I love it.
What about illustrations and all that? That's a huge accolade.
I also have illustrated about 15 books, and I'm illustrating more currently.
It doesn't matter what you gonna. Daddy always gonna kick you.
Gotta, publish books. The things she did.
Yes. What about you guys?
My name is Rihanna. You can follow me at LUV_RHI, and I write the school newspaper and the podcast that Brother Henry is doing with his co-star, I guess. She's my mentor.
I love
Which
it.
is super
I think
dope.
we're forgetting something though.
Didn't you just?
Oh yeah, I just published.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, is that your first book?
Yes.
How did it make you feel?
Good.
That's just
What's your
good.
book about?
It's about two people who meet at a coffee shop, and then it just turned into a love story, but then it falls apart.
Well, I hope the people heard it in the back.
Where can they find your book and speak louder?
You can find my book at lulu.com.
What's it called?
It's called If Only We Knew.
Nice. Thank you, Rihanna and my dear.
My name is Giselle. I'm a published author. I have 2 books called The New House and The New House 2. It's about overcoming goals, and you can find my book on lulu.com for $20. I'm also a business owner. I have a business called J Diamonds. I resell jewelry, but I plan on making jewelry in the future. You can find me on Instagram. My name is @j.diamonds, MONDS.
And she got a speaking engagement at the middle school that I used to work at.
Come on.
And she rocked it, and they asked her to come back.
You better kill a game. I can tell by the way she enunciates, the way she projects. You got some really cool kiddos here.
But the special thing about her, she was not like that when she came. She was real shy. She didn't want to, but now she's coming out more.
You know what they say about shy? People think you shy, but you got a whole lot going on in that mind of yours. I already know, because people think I'm shy sometimes. In what world? It just depends. You gotta allow your flower to bloom. All right, well, I'm excited. We already had a volunteer for the word of wisdom, but if you ladies have one as well, feel free to share.
When you run a business, you don't want clients, you want customers. You want clients, you don't want customers. Because customers may or may not come back. But clients always come back.
I love it. You guys got one?
Don't stop working hard. Just keep going.
Just keep going.
I like it.
I'm trying to think of one. It was one. The best way to predict the future is. Wait, I forgot.
You was almost there. The best way to predict the future is to.
The best way to predict the future is to create it.
I love it. Well, all right, Pops. I gotta close out with you. Since we have talked about your journey,
Yes,
I hope you guys get to see the vulnerable and the transparency that.
Absolutely. I don't think I've ever been as vulnerable or transparent on any podcast ever.
What?
Never.
You have shared your entire journey, and I really appreciate the highs and the lows, and you experiencing. Honestly, the type of student you were while your students are here and able to understand there's no flex, right? This
Not at
is
all.
what it is.
Absolutely.
And he's even humble enough to say I'm gonna hire a principal next year. So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna let you have the last word before we get up out of here. First, say your word of wisdom, of course, but then how can the folks find you? How can they connect? And then how can they continue to support?
Well, word of wisdom, I would say is, and I got this from Minister Farrakhan, so I can't I made it up. It's not that deep for me, but always remain a constant student. And by that, I mean that you can learn from anybody and everybody, and the best teachers, the best leaders are students, people that are curious, they want to learn every single day. So the more curious you are, the more of a learner you are, the better of a leader you'll be. If you want to be a leader, be a learner. Leaders are learners, right? I need to put that on the board of the school. Leaders are learners.
Yes. Where can the folks find you?
So you can find me. Let's run through this list. Okay, so you can find my school. I gotta spell it out for you. I guess find my school. We have a school website.
Spell it out.
Okay.
The description.
So yeah, if you drop the school website, then because folks will be like, how you spell that, huh?
Yeah, I got you.
Phonetically.
I got you.
You teaching them how to spell? Something wrong with the boy. So kikifersacademy.org is the school's link.
Okay.
And you can go check out all the information there. Of course, our school is on Instagram at Kikifer's Academy and on Facebook at Kikifer's Academy. And you can find me also on Instagram on my personal page as CEO Bro Henry. And for your listening audience, if they would like some extremely free value, right? Because you're talking about value. Our school has an app. If you get our school's app, you can go to the section that's part of our network, and in that network, you can hear yourself, right? You can hear from the lovely Ariel Young when she came to our school and spoke to our students, right? You can hear from A. Donahue Baker. You can hear from Minister Nuri, who's been on Breakfast Club and Vlad TV and Fox and CNN and ABC. You can hear from Erica McCall, who's one of my friends who she came and spoke to our students while she was getting prepped to go on Fox Soul. She was in the changing room getting prepped, but she took 30 minutes to speak to our school. Wow. You can hear from Professor Devin, who was my first coach that I ever hired, who helped us open up our beauty supply store. And he's responsible for 25% of all the black beauty supply stores in the country. And he's the CEO of Beauty Supply Institute right here in Atlanta. Right? There's so many people on there. There's so many people on there of high value that come and pour into our babies. And so part of us giving back to the community is we have that on our, and I haven't even uploaded. There's so many people that have come that it's hard to upload everybody, but it's free. So if you like, I'm interested, I want to know what y'all school is like, come check out some of the guest speakers that speak to our children. We had Antonio T. Smith, who's a billionaire, come speak to our children. He was supposed to speak for 30 minutes or maybe 45 minutes. He spoke for 2 hours. Wow. And his entire conversation, the entire 2 hours is, if you want to be a millionaire in 3 months, this is what you do. If you want to be and then he just went after, he said he has over like 200 something streams of income. He's like, if you want to be a millionaire in real estate, this is what you do. You want to be a millionaire in stocks, this is what you do. You want to be a millionaire in digital technology, this is what you do. You want to be a millionaire in video games, this is what you do. And literally, that's his whole conversation. How to be a millionaire in 3 months. That's what he does. So great value on there for anybody. Go get the app. And
is there going to be a link at the bottom, or how do we get into
I'm going to give you the link.
Okay.
And the link is going to be, it's not like an app you can download in like Google Play Store, to Apple App Store, but we got the directions. It's more like a bookmark that'll be on your phone.
Love it.
But you can get the app right on your phone, and we update it like every couple of days, so you can go there. All the information about the school is there. Marquel is on there. Like everybody's on there, right? David's on there. Donnie's on there. Like everybody's on there. So you gotta go. You gotta check it out. It's dope. I'm gonna give you the link. You can share it with your people.
Let's go. All right, guys. I have really, really enjoyed this one. We got special guests in the house.
Hey.
Good energy, good vibes.
Hey.
Go ahead. Click any of the information below. Check out Kikifer's Academy because they're doing wonderful things. I look forward to going back and doing some more stuff about podcasting as well.
We got to do? We have to have a Ariel day where we fly you out to our school and have you shoot your podcast at the school.
Let's go.
And
Would
then
y'all want to be on my podcast? We could do a whole interview.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
Amazing.
That'd be dope.
That'd
And
be
then
amazing.
you can interview some of the babies, like the kindergartners and stuff. They make interesting
I
conversations.
cannot wait for folks to see the interview that the kids did. We set up the podcast with the kids doing their conversation.
Oh my goodness.
I thought that was so cute.
Yes.
We tried to do it with the big kids. It wasn't quite. Oh no, we didn't get a chance to. But the kids killed me. The young babies.
The young children.
Babies killed it. Yes.
So we need to have an Ariel day where you come, where we can get you to the school, set up the podcast, shoot right there.
I'm down.
That'll be dope.
Let's do it.
That'll be dope.
All right, y'all. Well, stay tuned for that one because it's going to be lit. But until next week, peace out.